Hello, third graders, and welcome to chapter 4. It looks like we have about, 14, chapter 14. We have about, let's see here, 6 more chapters, and we'll be able to finish this by the end of the quarter, and we'll be taking a quiz over it, okay? So please make sure that you are keeping up to date on these videos because we'll be taking a quiz. Chapter 14. So tell me, Greg, Cassie said, looking sweetly at the manager, who'd greeted them earlier that afternoon. When exactly do these Grizzlies show up here? Mel and Steve stood behind her, with painted-on smiles. They were pretending to be all excited to see the Grizzlies eating from the dump. If Greg knew how they really felt, he might not be truthful with them. Mel felt like a spy. Oh, the Grizzlies come every night, Greg said, neatening a stack of papers on his desk. They'll be here when it gets dark. We'll make an announcement. We've been hearing all about it, Steve said. I'm surprised the Rangers haven't put a stop to it and, ruin everything. Because isn't feeding wild animals supposed to be against the rules at Glacier? Mel asked. Of course it was. There was signs everywhere. Do not feed animals. Oh, the Rangers know all about it, Greg said. This is shocking. There were 3 Rangers just a few nights ago. They were out there watching when the bears came. Didn't say a word to me, and besides, they know we have no choice. About what? Steve asked. We have to dump the garbage out there, because what else are we going to do with it? The Park Service gave me an incinerator back in June so we could burn our trash, but it was way too small, and the thing broke after a few weeks. I kept asking for a new one, but they just ignored me. So the Park Service knows all about this? Steve asked. A little too loudly. Mel gave him a little nudge. She didn't want Greg to get suspicious, but Greg didn't seem to notice. Sure, they know. This has been going on at the chalet for years. The tourists love it, and the Rangers know that. I'm just keeping up the tradition. They thanked Greg and went outside. They were barely out the door when Steve started to rant. He was seething with anger. Did you hear that guy? Doesn't he know how dangerous this is? They're hurting the bears. And they're going to get someone killed. The Park Service knows. This is crazy. Mel's own cheeks were burning too. How could he not realize how wrong this is? Cassie shushed him. We have to stay calm. We have more work to do. She looked around. It's time to find that dump. The dump was right where the mustached man had said it was, in the back of the chalet down the steep, rocky hill. The big ditch was filled with bottles and cardboard boxes and cartons. The stink of rotten food rose up. It reminded Mel of the disgusting smell of old Slim's breath when he stuck his head through the window. The sight of the garbage made Mel queasy, so she looked down at the dirt instead and saw something. Look, she said. The dirt was covered with paw prints. They were everywhere. Steve knelt down. Grizzly. He studied an especially huge one. It was twice the size of his hand. See how the toes are lined up straight? He said, his finger hovering over the print. That's how you can tell a grizzly print from a black bear's print. A black bear's toes are curved, like an upside-down U. And look here. He pointed to the 5 dots running across the very top of the print. These indents, we kind of learned about that in our close read this week when we were learning about impressions. These indents are the tips of the claws. How many bears have been here? Aunt Cassie asked. It's hard to tell without studying the prints, Steve said. He peered around, then walked about 10 yards to the side. But it looks like at least 5 different adults and some cubs. They hiked down the grassy hill. Near the bottom, there was a small cooking grill and a fire pit. A sign said Granite Park Campgrounds. They all stood there in shock. They actually let people camp out here? Mel asked, even though the answer was clear. The grizzlies have to pass right through here on the way to the dump, Steve said. This just gets crazier and crazier, Cassie muttered, shaking her head. Thinking about it made Mel's skin prickle with fear. A creeping uneasiness filled her chest. Granite Park really was in the middle of nowhere. The closest road or ranger station was miles away, and Mel knew there was no phones way up here in the backcountry. If something happened, if someone got hurt, it would take a very long time for them to get help, for them to arrive. We'll read chapter 15 next.